Time for the annual Make-A-Wood Sign Tribe Sign Exchange. So guys, every year through the Make-A-Wood Sign Tribe on Facebook, we do a sign exchange. It used to be during Christmas, but that's always a busy time of the year for everybody. So now we do it in the spring, and it's just whenever anyone can get it done. So luckily this year, ours was actually done with Samantha Krozik, and she only lives like an hour away. So stay tuned to the end of the video, because we're actually gonna drive down there, and we're gonna give her our sign and see what she made. Everything we use for this sign is on our website, makeawoodsign.com. Let's get started. So our friends Rod and Angie from Washington brought down two of these beautiful teak boards for us. They're 16 by 36 and they're a full 1 inch thick. And we figured this is the perfect project for one of these boards. Now for the artwork on here, the horses running in the water, we actually did our inkjet transfer process. Now this is a whole process, guys, so I sped this up. But if you want to see exactly how to do this, I'll put a link in the description below to a full-length video that runs you through all the necessary steps. It's kind of time-consuming a little bit, especially measuring where you want your artwork to be, but it really works well. Now for this one, my pages are kind of turned. They're not really crumpled, but the edges aren't flat. So that made it a little bit more difficult, especially once I flipped it over, just because you want it to be as flat as you can. I should have picked some better pieces for this, but it turned out okay. I just had to tape everything down really well while I was actually transferring the image on there. So again, I'll leave a link in the description below for a really detailed video on exactly how to do this. For the wording on here, we used 1 inch and 2 inch Western font. And now we chose that because when you do the sign exchange, you get in touch with the person that you're doing the exchange with, and you kind of get to know them a little bit, which is really the funnest part of the whole process. And you get to know what they're into. So we decided to do this for Samantha in Western font, and I love the way it looks. Now, there's a lot of wording on here. In fact, it almost didn't fit. I actually ended up putting the letters closer together than I normally would, just to make sure there was enough room, which that's why I had to start off with the profile bit at 1/8 of an inch deep instead of 3/16 like I normally would. When you're doing an arch like this, having our arches really helps. So you want to make sure that everything's straight, it's not cockeyed, and the arch isn't kind of at an angle. Otherwise, once it's carved, you are really going to be able to tell. Another tip, if you're going to do the inkjet transfer process, make sure to put a couple coats of clear over your artwork before you start carving, otherwise it's going to smudge really bad. The first bit I used on this sign was the carving liner bit at 1/8 of an inch deep. Now you guys, this was a tough carve just because there was so much detail. And what you want to do is you want to get all the hard stuff done first, especially if you have kind of a specialty board like we have here. We only had 2 of these, and I'm sure they weren't the cheapest things in the world, so we wanted to make sure that we got the hard stuff done. That way we didn't waste a bunch of time getting the easy stuff done, and I screwed this up and then Dad would have to come and fix it, which happens more than I'd like to admit. When you have a piece of artwork that's really difficult, got a lot of detail in it, like these horses, what you want to do is not look at it as a whole piece of artwork. You want to take it line by line. Basically what's going to happen is I'm carving everything outset. So all the black is going to be carved away, and then all of the white or the board color is going to stay. And in the main, there's a ton of little tiny lines. So instead of trying to do the whole thing as one piece of artwork, I just took it one line at a time. So if I had a small line that was outset, I'd go around that and then move on to the next one. If you try to take it all in one bite, man, it can get really overwhelming and it can get really challenging. Again, just take it one line at a time. Something else I found out on this, that little brush I'm using, some of this artwork was a little bit faded, right? But it seemed like once I used the brush and brushed it off, it kind of darkened it up a little bit. You can also use a Sharpie or a pen and mark everything you're going to carve out. The next bit I'm using is the profile bit at 1/8 of an inch deep. Now, because so many of these lines were close together, I had to take this in several different steps at several different depths. So I had to start off with a K-ring liner, which was really fine, then the profile at 1/8 of an inch deep, and then the profile at 3/16. So when you have stuff that's real close together like this, you probably don't want to take it all in one chunk. Not just that, a lot of people, especially new carvers, one of the questions they ask the most is how to get straight lines. If you start shallow, you're going to really get a lot straighter lines than if you just try to take it at the full 3/16 or 1/4 inch deep. Now, because there was so much carving on this sign, guys, I took breaks. You know, it's not like we were in a huge hurry. We didn't have a deadline to get this thing done. So if you are in that position, unless you're carving on site, that's a whole different situation. But if you're in the position where you're working in your shop and you're making something from somebody and you're not like really pressed for time, take some breaks, because your eyes can start to mess with you and you can start seeing the artwork different than it actually is. You end up carving something you didn't mean to carve and it could just be a mess. So take some breaks. Remember, this is supposed to be fun, and this was a lot of fun to carve. But if you try to push yourself and say, I gotta get it done, I gotta get it done, that's when mistakes happen, guys. So next I took that same profile bit and I dropped it down to 1/4 of an inch deep. Now I gotta admit, at this point in the carving, I was pretty relieved because all of the really difficult stuff was done. All the fine detail, the hair in the mane, all that stuff. So the reason I'm doing this is because everything that's black in the artwork is going to come out. So I have to take that profile bit and I have to widen the lines around all of that. And also there were several areas that I could actually take the whole section out with the profile bit at 1/4 of an inch deep. Remember, it's not necessarily the depth of the bit that matters the most. There's a lot of times where the width of the bit is more important, and this is one of those times. Because I dropped that down to 1/4 of an inch deep, it's cutting a whole lot wider, and that's what I needed for these areas. Now that all that's done, I'm using the carving liner again to go around the 1-inch letters. Now this is different than I normally do pretty much everything. Normally I will use one bit and get all of the work for that bit done on a sign. But because the artwork was so difficult, I wanted to finish that up before I started the letters. And I'm glad I did. Now you remember when I said I had to start with the letters at 1/8 of an inch deep instead of 3/16? This is what I mean. These letters were kind of crowded on here, especially for outset. Now if it's inset letters, you can almost have them touching and not have to change anything. But this is a different situation. Especially you can see like between the top of the K and the R and the bottom of the R and the A, they are super close together. So I went around everything at 1/8 of an inch deep first, then I came back and I carved those lines wider and deeper with the same profile bit. Now there's something I want to touch on that we don't really talk a lot about, mainly because we've mentioned it in the past and sometimes we forget because we've been doing this for so long, especially Dad, that people have this question, and that is the height of your carving bench. If you are carving and your hands or your bench is down maybe around your belly area or lower, that is going to kill your neck and your back because you're going to be crunched over and it's just going to hurt. So we like our bench right around chest height. That gives you plenty of vision to look in there and see what your bit is doing, and it keeps your back a lot straighter than if your bench is lower, and it really is going to help over time if you're carving a lot to kind of correct your posture a little bit. I have terrible posture anyway, but if this bench was lower, man, I don't think my back could handle it. Now normally I don't draw the line before I do the cloud for the outset letters, But because this has two lines, which can be a little bit more difficult, and also because it was so crowded, I wanted to have a line to follow so I didn't get kind of out of control. To do the cloud, I used the 90-degree bit at between 3/16 and 1/4 of an inch deep. Remember, you want to go as deep as you can without going past the cutting edge of the bit itself. So I did the outside cloud, and then I went through and I got the middle of everything, because that's what I usually end up forgetting, like the middle of a C or the middle of an O, something like that. So I always do that first, then I do everything around it. And I love how this looks. I think the outset with the Western letter is probably my favorite way to go. Now, if you're doing a different font, like the only font I like having a flat background is the Squares Bold font, just because it has more of a military look, and I think the flat background goes well with that. But the best thing about what we do is that it's all up to your creativity. 99% of the time we use the 90-degree bit to give a textured background, and people generally really like that. Now, the notched corners go really well with the Western look, but I'll be honest here, guys, I did a little bit of creative editing. This was a disaster. This bit is dull. I didn't set the drill press the right way. We got it done, but it was way harder than it should have been, and it took way longer than it should have. In fact, Dad even made a jig years ago that we used, but somehow I found a way to screw it up. Like I said, it got done, it looks good, but the process was way more difficult than it had to be. Now for the edge, I'm just going to give it a really deep chamfer. So I put a nice little chamfer on the back and then turned it over, and man, I put a fat chamfer on there. It might have even been a little bit too deep, but I think it looks good, and my normal issue is I normally don't do my edges deep enough. Did not have that problem on this one. Don't forget to brush everything out. This little nylon brush we got works perfect for that. Scrub the crap out of this thing before you do any of your spraying or sanding. Now for the spray, obviously, we used our black primer. It worked great, and this teak didn't bleed at all, which I'm not sure, but I don't think hardwood bleeds. A lot of softwood does, especially pine and things like that, but the teak took it really well, and I didn't have to do anything special to it. Now, I didn't overspray, which you really can do easily, especially on something like these horses where it's got a lot of fine lines. But remember, if one line is a little lighter than the other, as a whole, you're never going to see it. You just want to try to get those white spots out of there. Now, because this is hardwood, our first initial sand, I used a 60 grit disc. And then for the final sand, I used a 120 grit disc on a random orbital. Now we only show one coat of clear on here, but it's actually got somewhere around 20. Remember, the more coats of clear you have on there, the better it's going to protect, and the more it will build up and give it that really glossy look.
All right, guys, we are here at Samantha's house. We had a great opportunity. The fact that we got matched up, we were able to kind of do this in person, so we were excited about this. So, Samantha, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sam, or Samantha, whatever way you want to say. And I'm very honored to be able to do this sign exchange. I think it's a great, fun thing for all of us to do. I wasn't able to partake last year. Another time I was unable to partake because I was moving.
Yeah.
But now that we're here, we're settled. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So the sign exchange, if you guys don't know, has been going on for about 4 or 5 years. It started as a Christmas thing. Thank you again, Bob and Carmen, for everything you guys do, because you guys really run this sign exchange. We just get to kind of play around, and in this particular instance, we get to meet new people. So, and I know you've been following us for a while, I think.
Yeah, I think it's been since about 2018.
Wow,
maybe
that long.
2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, while you were still up in Washington State then.
Yep, I was looking for ideas for signs, and then I just kind of stumbled in, and then I started watching, and like, okay, I got to get a router. I'm there. I got to do this. So
We got her.
Yeah.
Yes. Part of our world domination plan.
it was fun.
All right. So
fun.
we're going to do this. I'm going to give Sam her sign first, and then we'll swap that around. And so this is what we came up with.
Oh my God, it's absolutely gorgeous.
And this was actually, the cool thing about this piece of wood is this was gifted to us from our friends that were up in Vancouver, and this is Teak. They have it up there at, I think, Lowe's or Home Depot, and it's manufactured teak. And I love carving this stuff. This stuff is so much fun to carve.
That is absolutely gorgeous.
Well, good.
Look at those perfect lines and everything. Like everything's so perfect.
Well,
It's
we've had some
beautiful.
practice.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
based on our conversation, we had a phone conversation. Based on that, this is what we came up with. And fortunately, we had a couple of these teak boards, and like, now I know what we're going to do with that. Yeah.
So teak, is it like oak, hard like that? or-
It's very hard, but it's really consistent. It's not like a lot of softwoods have a hard, soft
Right.
kind of thing. It's very consistent. It's hard. It's kind of tough on the bits
Yeah.
because I think teak has some silicone in it, so it's got like little sand grits. So I had to sharpen the bits a couple times as we were going through it, but we're pretty happy with the way it came
That's
out. And I just
beautiful.
love this teak.
Yeah.
This teak wood
Oh, wow.
just really looks spectacular with the
That
finish on it.
does.
So
That's
very
great.
happy with the way it came out. I'm glad you like it.
I love
That's
it.
what counts. That's what
I'm so
counts.
excited. That's perfect.
All right.
All right.
There
your
we
turn.
go. All right. So let's
Let's go.
Did you get Harley on camera?
No, not yet.
He is.
He's a good boy.
Oh, that looks like poplar.
It is poplar.
Yeah. Poplar is beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah.
Ever since I started carving it, I'm like, oh,
Yeah, it's very, I like it. Oh my gosh.
Man.
Check that out. Wow.
So I kind of wanted a little bit of Arizona flair.
Yeah.
Because you guys
Got
were going
that
to move. But I'm
Arizona
really glad
thing
you
up
did.
there? Yeah.
And then the side
Wow.
by side.
That is so cool.
I want some Western kind of writing and make it like a little wild too. So
Yeah. Oh man.
Dude,
That's
that looks-
beautiful.
That's freaking awesome.
That is, yeah, you're an amazing sign carver. That is
Thank you.
really, really cool. The finish on there, man.
Is that based off one of the pictures I sent you?
yeah. I just kind of wanted to know if it was a 2-seater or 4-seater, and I
Okay.
couldn't really find anything. And I went through all the internet, and I'm not sure if it was the right year or
That looks like mine. That looks like,
Yeah, it looks exactly like it.
yeah, it does. But man, that is so cool. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. I appreciate.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much
Oh,
too.
that's so cool.
That's
I love it.
fantastic.
All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap this up. Be sure and go check out the Facebook page, the Make a Wood Sign Tribe, over on Facebook, and get involved in this sign exchange. It's so much fun. When you're not lucky enough to live close to each other like this, people take videos of their unboxing and post it on there. So if you guys are part of this sign exchange this year, 2025, definitely take videos of your unboxing. We want to see them. So this sign exchange thing is just so much fun.
It is fun.
It's so much fun. We had a phone conversation and kind of figured out what, you know, got some ideas from the other person, and this is what we came up with. So anyway, guys, thanks so much again for watching. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure coming down and meeting you and your better half over there.
Other half.
Other half, yes, yes.
No,
and,
okay, I'll
and
do that.
Harley, of course.
Yes.
Yes. Harley's tense.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, thanks so much again for watching. Show us your videos, and then if you have any questions, you can email me, eric@makeawoodsign.com. I guess that's it. Thanks again. We love you. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
See ya.